Computer. Lights. Morning, folks. Oh, I'm green today. Why am I so green? Well, happy Monday. Let's configure our video because I seem to be very green. There, look at that. But now I'm bright. Ugh. I don't know which is better, to bring down the gain or to maybe bring up the gain and bring down the brightness. That looks about right. The question really is whether I do the thing whenever I walk out into the sun over here and get nuked by the sun. I guess not. See, that looks better. Much better. We're good. So we have a weird glitch that happens with OBS and the system going on here, whereby something, and I actually think it might not be OBS, I think it might be Discord. Discord takes control of my camera and then won't give it back. So whenever I load up OBS, Discord has already taken the camera, and OBS goes, well, can't see your camera. So what I end up having to do is unplug the camera and then plug it back in again. So what I've done is I've moved the camera's controller to my little port up here on the desk so that I can just go click, click, instead of having to reach down here into the guts of the engineering department down here and figure out how to fix it. So anyway, so we've done quite a bit of work over the weekend that I'm pretty proud of. And good morning, Brent. You know, I've got no viewers, but you're here. It's funny. I mean, it literally says nobody's watching the show today. Shrug. It's so weird. Oh, because it's still sending data to my personal page, and that's not working for some reason. I guess. Oh, now it says there's somebody there. It's you. Oh, man. Okay. I don't know. So, all right. Anyway, did some good work over the weekend, as you might have noticed if you were following me out there on GS Davis Art or on my Instagram. I got some good work going, and I'm pretty proud of the stuff I did. So I'll bring some of that up today. What we didn't, but many people probably did not see. So we'll start with, got this great picture from the manga challenge, or from a manga challenge thing. Really? We've gotten stuck. Hang on. There we go. System coming back, which is significantly cool. Oh, they loved it. They loved the modified version of it too. So the better version of it, which is good because it stems off of this picture. This picture is a quantum leap for me. It is a major jump from the last time because the pen capabilities are much, much better. If you look at this right here, like the width of the arm being thin and then thick and then thin again, and like right up here where I have no line, but we've got line work going in through there and then line around this corner here, it looks a lot more like my line work looks whenever I'm drawing on paper, which is great. This is the way it should look in my brain. And so it hasn't. So this was a major jump for me. I managed to do a couple of other ones too that were similar. We did this one, which is interesting as well, and this one is Chang with a fish. So we've got Chang and the fish going here, and it's also the first time that I've tried to put out any kind of civilian wear, because Chang is wearing a civilian outfit at this point in time. I don't actually have a joke this morning. I'm having a problem with a joke, so I don't know whether we'll be doing Springs this morning or not, because I can't think of anything funny. So we'll have to wait on that. Maybe something funny will come to me, but with the problem we've got is, in the past when we have done Springs on Monday, it has been okay to not have something funny when we came into the show, because if I spent the first hour kind of running around in circles, then I could draw the comic in the second hour. But now we've got Geek Tank in the second hour, so that's a little harder. However, I just noticed that Troy has posted a picture of, oh yeah, I'm totally going to be meatless on the, I will not do meat on February 30th and 31st. Absolutely will not. I'll join you, man. You and me, we'll go meatless for those days. I promise you I will. So anyway, we'll have to see. Oh, that as my joke. I've never really established whether they use the same calendar. I don't know. They've never been mean to each other, per se. And that's kind of a sardonic joke to one another, I feel like. You know what I mean? Like, that's a, hey, Brent, do you want to go without alcohol for the 30th and 31st of February? And you'd say, no, man, I never go without alcohol. And we all go, and laugh at you. You know what I mean? I feel like that's that kind of humor. Or if you're all in on the joke, then it's even better, because then we're all in on it together, right? You know, like we've been doing, like you posted that. And I was like, yeah, I'll do that for you. You know what I mean? We are all in on this. We know what the joke is here. But in order to make that kind of work in a 4-panel, it would have to be, hey, TB, do you want to, not have any oil for the 30th and the 31st of February? And TB goes, but I can't go without oil, I'll die. And then, ha, 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 That's never been kind of the style we've pulled on Springs. They're not necessarily mean to each other. I don't know why. Oh, I put that up there because I was drawing. When I draw, sometimes I hover over my monitor and I bump my head against the microphone. So, anyway, something else. I mean, I've been trying to kind of figure out a way to do a joke about updating and stuff like that. Because that's, or like that whole thing that we've been going through with OneDrive. But that seems like that's a Sunday joke. Because it's a long form. So you'd want to do it on the Sunday strip, where, hey, Don Q, do you want to go to the concert on Thursday? Don Q. I'm sorry, what? And 3 or 4 questions like that with him. I'm sorry, what? And then, I too much spring cleaning right off February. That's almost good. That one works. It's a little less obvious. I have a, hey, Donald. All right. Anyway, we did that. There were a couple of pieces I did over the weekend, which I'm very pleased with. Those two were amongst them. The Art Challenge manga page and the Slippery page. But, and I probably ought to put these in I have a folder. There we go. I have a folder specifically for sort of pictures that I think are great. My own sort of bragging rights, so to speak. And I should move Slippery in there and this art challenge manga page because they are sort of pivotal. I feel like they're a big deal. They're a big deal. But let's also talk about one other that I did over the weekend, which I like a lot. Because I did this one too. And I like this one because it's colored as well. That's all right. You don't have to be awake for this. I mean, frankly, we're not quite awake half the time anyway. So just kind of part of the crew here, I just, won't ask you serious questions about structure, Navy structure or anything like that because it won't help us a whole lot. Anyway, like this piece, I did a little bit more of the you could kind of see here, we've got kind of that thick and thin line thing that I'm getting from the G Pen, which I'm much more excited about. So I like this piece as well. It looks pretty good. So over the weekend, I got a fascinating book, which I actually will go fetch real quick because it is a fascinating book. And I'll be right back. Hang on. I got to go get it. It's in the other room. So I know a lot of people have varying opinions on Christopher Hart as an artist. Dalai Lama poses. Yes, sort of. So Christopher Hart is this guy who does a lot of these manga anime sort of books, how to draw different things. But I love this book. I picked it up on sale, so it was on sale, and it's kind of hard to read. But you can see what he's got in here is just a whole bunch of different poses. But usually, whenever I get this, I generally consider myself to be further along the skill set than Christopher Hart. But from time to time, he will do something that's useful, and I'm really into it. In this instance, he talks about literally breaking down poses and how they show up in different things, right? So I've been thinking a lot about how my maquettes work. One of my biggest problems with my maquettes is that they feel stiff and they feel rigid. But I've been having these moments where something happens and I'm like, that doesn't feel rigid. That doesn't feel like the problem. And I used a maquette for it because that's part of my workflow and it makes things faster, right? So, an example here is this picture. Didn't mean for it to be so slow, right? We'll take this picture right here, which work calls, which this is a character I use for my Starfinder game. And this is also done by a maquette, and the maquette is, but she looks stiff. She looks like she's rigid. She doesn't look like she moves. She doesn't look alive, really, right? But you take that versus this picture, which we just showed, right? This picture, despite the fact that we've got all the Morier patterns going on it, this picture here most definitely looks more alive, more and it's a maquette as well. But this maquette, I tweaked with a little bit. I tweaked her hips, I moved her shoulders, I moved her head, and adjusted everything a little bit so that she was a little bit more mobile. And one of the things that was coming up on this book that I realized because of this is that manga style, as a style, is a little bit exaggerative on the poses, even when we're just doing a normal Joe Blow standing there pose, right? Her legs, it's probably better if we brought it up in here. I'll open it up in here because it's on the desktop. Oh, this one you mean? Not because this one's a little better if we turn off that and it turns away the Morier pattern. She's a little easier to see. We can zoom in a little bit more. We can't turn off the Morier pattern on the background because the background is actually a deleter screen. And a deleter screen is the screens that they would sell at in Japan that you would scrape the backs of and it would lay it down on paper, but it was already dots. So this background's a deleter screen. So there we go. I can get rid of that, make it. The foreground on her is what we call screening, and we can turn on the screening or turn it off inside Clip Studio. But this is also a maquette. There's a maquette under here, right? And all I did was tweak her until I got it correct, the pose, right? I've moved her over, but it's the same thing, right? And I think part of this is because what happened on this one is I have learned that there's a difference in anime poses. They aren't the same as real humans. And I know that sounds stupid. when saying it, it sounds dumb. But that's what this book was sort of showing me was, oh, it doesn't matter. There's a style to anime-esque poses. And so what I need to do is just make my own poses, which is not a problem. I actually like Christopher Hart. I have a number of Christopher Hart's books. I mean, over here, I'm looking at some of these right now. I mean, there are other ones who do a whole lot better. But Hart, especially his earlier stuff, was. Oh, you're saying that something was wrong with her legs? Yeah, but that's the thing, right? For Aya, for Addie, I'm sorry. Addie is my Starfinder character. And we can actually bring her up and bring her into. So let's talk a little bit about stuff, right? This guy, this picture was done without maquettes. Right? So this picture here is without a maquette. It's X33. Or yeah, I mean X23. So X23. But this picture, I did it without maquettes, and a long time ago. So 322 for Pummel. I think that this actually kind of lies in at 2011. So this picture is already almost 10 years old. So anyway, the long and the short of it is that looking at sort of this, I did this one without a maquette, and I can do it. But I remember how long it took me to do this picture. It took me probably 3 hours just to get the pose. Once the pose was in, it took another 2 hours to stabilize it. Whereas the umbrella girl, this picture here, took 2 hours total from opening up Daz Studio until here was 2 hours. So depends on how you look at things. You know, this one has a little bit more life to it, but it also took 5.5 hours to get to, something usable. Whereas this one took 2 hours and I've managed to get life into it. So I think I'm on to something when we talk about using maquettes. I think the maquettes need to be tweaked with before I can ever fire them off. I also did something I hadn't done before with this guy. Let's see if I can find it here. And that was, I did a sketch on top of the maquette, which I'd never done before. And I think I'm going to go with this one more often too, because the sketch only took a second or two and allowed me to get details in that I didn't have before and things that I probably wouldn't have seen. And I feel like it's because when I get to the inking stage, it's more like a trace, right? Than it is. I get kind of single-minded on it and do sort of a trace on it instead of going down on, getting more of the details and going in and trying to kind of fix stuff. So there you go. Kind of analyzing my work today because I've been actually writing a lot. And so there's a lot of writing going on in my world these days. And so we have a number of pieces in here. I don't think I've ever gone through and sort of talked about the pieces that I've gotten here. Some of my more favored pieces. Yeah. Well, the tech manual is ready to some degree, right? I mean, we just need to figure out, what are we writing in there? Or are we? Are we writing anything? We don't have to. I mean, really, honestly, the only reason that we're writing anything in there is to give the feeling of a tech manual, right? We don't have to. I mean, we could just throw a whole bunch of dispergent pages together, put it together, and then say, coming up soon is Bellatrix Rising. Buy this small tech manual for, just shows some of the what's coming up in the comic. I mean, really, we could do that and just send it off and get it printed, Being like written stuff in it. Yeah, maybe. So we're at a point where it is going to be worth, I've made a million words. It is going to be, it's going to cost time. Hand notes. Yeah, I could see that. At this point in time, it's going to cost us some time because we've got to write, and writing can't be done online. I can't broadcast while writing. And I guess I could broadcast while writing, but I can't broadcast while writing. I had 2 more people a minute ago. Now they're all gone. I don't know what happened to them. Oh well. So, yes, anyway, we are working on things. I thought we did this one colored. That's very interesting. Oh well. So, hand notes. Well, let's go talk about the pages then. No, do not save. We wish to keep that as it was. So here's what we've got. Go into Bellatrix. Okay. Makes sense. Because we do have sort of that thing, right? So let's talk about what we've got. Let's bring up page 2, which would be the thing, right? Open. So let's talk a little bit about some of this stuff. Because part of our problem is this. Okay. Move my Lochnar over. Part of our problem is here. So because of course I'm completely organized. That's why I use sketchbooks for everything. There we go. Here's a setup timeline that we've got kind of going for us. Why is this angled funny? It shouldn't be angled funny. You guys getting seasick yet? Seasick? Stop rocking the boat. So we've got a timeline in here that we can use. Sort of sets up everything since the moment when we left in the Titan War, right up here. This is the Titan War. I can't even see what that says. I'm sure that's critical. Oh, seasick. Gotcha. We've got the Titan War here, which then in 2071, settling at Stranded. In 2091, Diaspora. That's when the Deus Thati and the Xing Chao leave. So we kind of get them out of the system for a while. 2092, we settle Silver Core. 2125 is the AI war. 2136, the N drive is invented. You get the idea. 2215, Beehive starts to establish itself. 2224, Bellatrix is settled. So we kind of have like the key points here. The supernova of Betelgeuse actually happened before before all of this happened, which now looking at the star maps, and I know you hate star maps, but looking at the star maps, I'm noticing how much the Beehive is threatened by Betelgeuse. And that's kind of an interesting sort of sub problem, if you will. Because let's go in here and talk about this a little. Because I'll switch over. Yeah, because the supernova of Betelgeuse happened prior. But when you look over, this isn't quite good enough. This is the local zone. Dang it. Anyway, in the big map view of the universe, you have the Earth control zone. Here, I'll go into a bigger. You have the Earth's control zone, which has Earth, Vega, stuff like that. And this is all now zoned out. You can't go there. There's a Valkyrie base there, and the Valkyries will kill you. And so don't go near that. It's part of the protectorate of Earth and yada, yada, yada. So the entire zone around Earth is blocked out. However, there is a station on the end of it, which is the beginning of the super network station that goes across the galaxy. When you look at this control zone, over here is Hyades. So there's this Hyades group. Right next to Hyades is the Betelgeuse, or is the Bellatrix group, right? So it's the Unity's stronghold in the system. Heading out towards this way is the Pleiades. And then over here is where you run into the explosion of Betelgeuse. Right above it is the Beehive. And I didn't realize until I set my numbers up correctly and got my math figured out how close they are. They're right on top of one another. In fact, the supernova of Betelgeuse should be in the beginning of our story. That shock wave is starting to approach the bottom stars of the Beehive because the Beehive is up and over. And so it's this cluster, and Betelgeuse is just exploding like this underneath it, and it should be coming up on the bottom end of it. So I think one of our stories very soon would have to be somebody's going to have to rescue planet XYZ because it is at the bottom and it's about to be destroyed by the supernova Betelgeuse, which is moving at light speed. So anything that's 400 light years away is going to take 400 years. Hello, John. Welcome to the show. We're talking about stars. Who knew? Oh, well. So you probably haven't been here before. I'm a artist out of Denver, Colorado, and I'm writing a Planet Ghost Hand. Yeah, you're right. And I'm writing a comic called Bellatrix Rising, which is about sort of 500 years from now, sort of a Star Trek-esque show. And we are talking about I'm tabling at a convention at the end of March. And so what we're doing right now is discussing the technical manual because I can't get a comic ready by March. So instead, we're taking the artwork that I've done and putting it into a tech manual and putting that out and printing it and making a 16-page short that can sit on my desk so that I can sell that at the table when we go to the convention. So that's what we're discussing. The other guys that are on here right now, Brent and Donald, are longtime viewers, and they've been here for a while, and we're all kind of discussing what aspects need to be in this tech manual, what we can use and what we can't. And so I welcome your input. If you wish to join in and have a discussion and stuff like that, you are more than welcome. One of the things that has been brought up was the idea of putting in the timeline, which is something that has existed for a while. And so that's what's over here on the desk in my sketchbook. We're talking about the timeline in here of sort of where everything happened. So back to what I was saying before, one of my questions is, what's our resolution on this? Because looking at the timeline, if you do it from the conceit that this is a technical manual, then you probably won't have Li Cheng's birthday in there, right? I mean, why would the captain of the ship have her birthday in a tech manual, right? But that is a part of the timeline, and that's right over here. She's born in 2543, so or for that matter, the first officer, or the military officer. Well, maybe that's not a bad idea. Try to kind of project a gravity wall. Well, we'll burn that bridge when we get to it. So we're kind of going through here. The fold drive is discovered in 2247, which is good because the long reach is difficult. Something I kind of was discovering when we were talking about just the size of things, and John, you can see this too whenever we come up on this here. I'll bring us over back to the monitor while we load this. So when I was doing the map on the galaxy, this is an actual representation of galactic space as we know it today. The galaxy is what we call a barred spiral. The Milky Way is a barred spiral, which means that instead of having a core that's circular, it has two core points that are orbiting back and forth like two supermassive black holes or something. There's 2 points that are moving back and forth, which causes a bar of stars through the middle of our galaxy. But we're reading radio transmissions across the center section of the galaxy. When you look at it here, we are in this spot right here. This is pretty much it. This is the entire Orion Nebula complex, and this is the Vela Nebula complex over here. And this entire opening gap has been torn open by probably the Pleiades, is what they think is happening. The Pleiades, as a star cluster, has been kind of moving through the arm and kind of ripping a hole through it as it goes through, because the Pleiades is a birthing nebula. Where lots of stars are being born and there's lots of supernovas exploding all the time in it. And so as it moves through the galaxy, it's got all these stars that are just and so the Pleiades is probably making this hole in here, but there's this open gap behind it as well, which we call the Vela rift, or the Vela open gap. So moving closer to us and down here, you can kind of see a much clearer view of what's going on in the Vela supershell and the human local zone, and you get the superstructures of these clouds. But the thing that I've noticed, and this actually does show it, is here is Betelgeuse, this big red splotch that's exploding right there, and it's headed for the Beehive, which is a cluster of stars that was settled early on in my story. The Commonwealth is holed out in the area that's called the Hyades star cluster, and the Unity is holding out in Bellatrix, which is the other star of Orion. So if you were to look at Orion, Betelgeuse, which is this one, is the left shoulder, and Bellatrix is the from your perspective the right shoulder. So of Orion, and there, so that's the upper two stars. From our point of view, it's kind of interesting that you look at this, and of course you could draw a line and you get Bellatrix kind of control here. Bellatrix going this way, and then Betelgeuse going this way from our point of view. So they're not actually next to each other, obviously, in the night sky. But the Beehive cluster in 3D space, the Beehive cluster is just above there. The Pleiades star group is sort of what we think is causing all of this mess. It's moving at a different speed in the galaxy. Things move slower or faster depending on how close they are to other groups of stars. That's just the way it goes. We're by ourselves pretty much. We're not in a star cluster. The solar system is by itself kind of moving along, so it moves faster. So it moved into this bubble, which was probably opened by Pleiades. So the Pleiades probably opened this bubble going this way, and it's been kind of heading this way through stuff. And as it slowed down, things got a little bit better. So anyway, all of this here is then the current slow zone map, is what they call it, a slow zone map, because there is a high-speed transfer group or pathway which comes out of Sol going all directions here. During the Titan War, the Last Stand was here in the war. And the Last Stand broke space. So when it did, it created these pathways for fold travel. So a ship can fold from one location to the next. That's why humans have a high standing in the galactic civilization. Because, of course, they were late to the game. The galactic civilization had been running for millions of years prior to humans showing up, and then all of a sudden humans are on the scene. So why are they part of the galactic culture? It's because they were the ones that sort of stopped the war, and they gave the ability to do this warp speed, this fold speed. So if you're wondering, John, for your benefit, this was my COVID project. The story behind this is that indeed we've been kind of doing this for a couple of years now, world building and stuff. So that's where we are. So, all right. Moving right along. I think that when we get to the point where we have to deal with the Beehive and whether the Beehive is being rescued by the supernova remnant of Betelgeuse or not, we'll get there at some point. Interesting thing, though, is discussing various things. This area was only known to the galactic culture as the Bandoise Memorial Zone. There was a culture that lived near us called the Bandois, and they were wiped out by the bad guys during a battle, and they weren't even space capable. So trees, forest. Yes, Brent. Actually, you are absolutely right. Anyway, so John, if you wish to join me, I actually broadcast every morning from 9 to 11 Mountain Time, except on Mondays when I broadcast from 9 to 10. And then I do another podcast at 10 to 11 called Geek Tank, where we just talk about geeky things. But I'm kind of worried this morning because my co-host for Geek Tank posted a picture of his cat, and I know his cat isn't feeling well. So I'm worried that the reason with no explanation, he just posted a picture of his cat. And so I'm worried that something bad has happened to his cat because his cat's in bad shape. His cat's old. So I'm curious, worried that we may be continuing on and not, in fact, going on to Geek Tank, which would be fine. That'd be fine. Okay, so let's take a look at what we've got as far as valuable things. We have page 2 has the Constitution of Worlds, and that is sort of the Constitution. The long and the short of the story is that my dad, I had been drawing a Star Trek fan comic for a very long time, and my dad sort of sat me down and said, "Son, why are you doing that? You can't sell that." And so he was the one that sort of started the idea of me doing my own world, my own universe, and that has blossomed out to this. That's why. He also passed away in June, but his signature is number 1 signature on the Constitution. But the Constitution is effectively the prime directive, allowing me to have just enough conflict internally that my characters don't just solve everything in a split second. You know, it's effectively the thing that's so do we want to just write it up? Do we think? Let's just write it up. Let's see what we got. I'm going to look over here and you. I hope Kit Kat's okay. That's so weird and out of the blue for him. So I'm hoping Kit Kat's fine. But again, we know it. We know that we are so I did a timeline a while back. I wonder how accurate our timeline would be. We'd love your feedback, not during a show. Okay. This tells me a lot more than I need to know, I think, but hopefully. So, okay, there once was a time when there were dark planets that weren't ready to join the galactic collective. Before this time, people were withdrawn from these planets in a dramatic way, resurrecting them to become pilots. By constitutional right, an addendum to the Constitution, this is before the Constitution of Worlds, they had to, the people who protected the planet had to be members of that world. So these people protected the planets by using super ships known as betas. Now they are known as Titans. The Titan ships were incredibly powerful, even by modern standards. They drew power from the fabric that contained the universe. They drew their power from the universal foam itself. Titans were deployed to protect planets which had galactic eggs in them from a race of creatures. Talk about love. I guess that means we're doing a show. We're going to talk about love. He brings us love. Kill him. Okay. How much of this data do we need to have in here? The Titans were deployed to protect planets that had eggs of the lore myth, which the lore myth were the eggs, but they're Lumen, and that's the name of the aliens that live above the interuniversal or live in the interuniversal foam. So my story actually has creatures that live above our universe or out of our universe, and they reproduce by planting eggs in our universe. And that's the way top story that's not even covered in the middle story here. It's a big piece. So over millions of years, though, there was a xenophobic race called the Asul, and the Asul learned about the lore myth and started destroying the eggs. And that's when the Galactic Federation, so to speak, at the time, the Proto Federation, started fighting the Asul. The Titan War came to an end at Earth when the character Alex set off the engine of the Beta to destroy to send a signal flare to the Illumine, and they then came in and they changed things like Q. They just made the Asul into the Weirn, which are mindless creatures that wander the galaxy now, and stopped the war. So they put it into the war, but it destroyed Earth in the process, and theoretically killed Alex, but it didn't, because she shows up again 500 years later, right? Which is part of what's going on. So we have a number of things going on in here. Should we put the Bandois in there? Because that's a battle that died. They were killed in the fight. Okay. So I will put this all together for us starting tomorrow. Okay, so he's put a StreamYard link up. That seems to be a good thing. So that means we are definitely switching over in 7 minutes. So, okay, starting tomorrow, then we'll put the history pages in, and then we will look at, because the history pages probably will take 2 pages. And we'll do that. That makes sense. We'll put the history pages in, and then that should fill us to the point where we'll have 14 pages, which is cool. That should be fine. We just need to, we'll discuss tomorrow morning the scope of how much of that history we want to put in there. Because I think that we will want to put not all of it in there. Or maybe we do. I mean, all of this stuff about the Illumine and the lore myth, that's all super story. And that goes way above the story. That's the, after 20 or 60 issues of my comic, we start unraveling what Alex's mission is on this world, which we pick Alex up in the first issue, but we stay with her for a very long time doing other missions. So we don't, Alex becomes just a cutesy character that they picked up somewhere along the line to be the, you start out in the story with Alex being sort of the, oh, this is cute, so we can all have discussions about, then a credits thank you page. You're right. Then we'll have it all in. Then I just need to do graphic design, and we're in like Flynn, and we can send it off. Okay, cool. I think we've got this under control then. We'll put the history pages in tomorrow, and then we'll put a credits page at the end, and we'll be out of here, and this will be done, and we can package it, and then we can decide what short story we want to put together with it. I had a little like Thursday at the latest, absolutely, and then we can roll it out, and we can get a print, and that'll be great. Well, it'll be done by Thursday, at which time we ought to give it to somebody to edit. That's a good one. Rather than fire it off without editing, because that would be a stupid idea. I don't know why I think this is a great idea. I don't know what my problem is. Anyway. Okay. Well, we're 5 minutes to Geek Tank. So yes, that's actually what she does. That she'll she'll do it. She used to be an English teacher. She's now an elementary school teacher, but that's all right. She still is very qualified to check my spelling and grammar and stuff like that. Also, she is, of all the folks, very familiar with this entire story arc, and she can do things like, did you know that you put the wrong date here, and stuff like that. So she's really good at this. So should give us the ability to do this. It's time for me to say goodnight, Gracie. So John, thank you for joining me this time around. I hope to see you in future shows. Brent, Donald, of course, thank you guys for being here as well. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate the help. And I really do appreciate, Brent, you keeping me on task. Thank you very much. I'm going to actually unlatch that. There we go, because it should be aimed a little bit more like this. There we go. There. I know it doesn't fit as well, but then I can keep it kind of out of the way there, because I keep bumping my head on it. So we'll let her get to it, and she'll tackle it and tear it up real good. And then but we should be able to, by this time next week, fire it off and send it to the printers. I'll see you, Brent, in a couple of minutes in Geek Tank. If you want to continue on following us on Geek Tank, you can follow us on the Facebook channel Rocky Mountain Geek Tank. And that's Geek Tank, like Think Tank, except with geeks. And it's our logo is a green logo with a tank in it because we think that's funny. So I'll see you in a few minutes over there on that side. We'll only be broadcasting to Facebook, but won't be broadcasting to my pages. And so for everybody who joined me, thank you very much. And I will see you all later. And remember to keep your eyes on the stars. Bye-bye. Computer, good night.